In the book of Romans, chapter 8 and verse 5, it says, "For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit." And the apostle adds, "For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace." And it says, "Because the carnal minded is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor so then those who are in the flesh cannot please God." And it presents clearly, he presents clearly the struggle, the internal battle that every person has between the flesh and the spirit. And it seems like it's a battle, a never-ending battle. There was a professor who wanted to teach his students about the battle between the carnal man and the spiritual man. And so on a cage, he brought two dogs, a white dog and a black dog. And so he said, "Each dog represents one of our two natures, and the spirit and the flesh are always battling against each other." And one of the students asked the teacher a question: which one of the two are going to win the fight? And the teacher answered. He said, "The one that I feed best." Well, that's a great truth. As long as we are in this body, we're going to have a battle between carnal nature and spiritual nature. In the days of Judges, God, He spoke to the people of Israel and told them to exterminate all those that dwelled in that land. And they were not to make any alliance with any of them. However, they didn't do it. They just simply conformed to just conquering a little bit, and all of a sudden, their enemies grew and they were becoming strong. And they were taking over the people of Israel, and they were making them pay taxes to them. Well, the same thing happens with the carnal nature. A lot of times, there are desires within the people, and believers, they just keep things under control, subjugate things, and they feel that they have authority over them. But if they don't eradicate them, if they don't totally get them out of their life, it's going to come to a moment where that little subjugated sin is going to grow, and it's going to become a tremendous giant that could dominate you and make you a slave. It's the battle that we fight every day. Now, the best way to obtain victory in this battle is by guarding our mind. Dr. Cho, he said that there are two seas in a sea. There is a ship in the same sea. One is headed for success and the other one is headed for failure. And he said the same thing happens with our mind. We are in the same level of conditions. We have the same vision, same congregation, same teachings. However, some people are headed for success and others are heading towards failure. We all have the same instruction from the Word of God. And what helps us most is that our mind would be trained in the Word of God. That's why it says that those that are of the Spirit think of the things of the Spirit. We could see, we could look at the circumstances the way the world sees the circumstances, and we're going to sink. But if we look at things through the way God sees them, we are going to have hope. Back in the days of the Great Depression in the United States in 1929, there was this story, a true story, that Dr. Norman Vincent Peale shared about a man who had his little hamburger joint where he sold hamburgers and sandwiches, And there were many trucks and cars that would stop every day to eat hamburgers and sandwiches. Well, this man was doing so well that he sent his son off to college, and after a few months, his son came back to visit him, and he saw that his dad was prospering, and he said, "Dad, I don't get it. Why are you prospering, but everyone else is going bankrupt? Don't you read the news, and don't you know that we are going through a great recession, and there is a world crisis, there is a financial crisis, and you are just selling big hamburgers and big sandwiches? Don't you realize that we are in a recession?" Well, that man, he had this particular problem, and it's that he had lost his sight and he could not read the newspapers. He could see very little, and he was a little deaf, so he couldn't listen to the news either, and he didn't even know what was going on all around. But when his son, with his college education, told him about the crisis and he believed it, he made his hamburgers smaller and sandwiches smaller, and 6 months later his son came back to visit, and the place was gone. Everything had gone bankrupt. And the father said, "Son, thank you for your great wisdom. I followed your advice, and it's true. We are going through a terrible recession." Don't allow the news to steal your hope away. Don't allow that which we hear every day, which is not encouraging, to take your sleep away from you. Remember, those that belong to the Spirit think of the things of the Spirit. You could think great, you could project to do great things for God, and God is going to help you. Remember that the law of the Spirit is inside of us.